Our next guest, Ann Coulter, needs no introduction other than to say she has a new book out, and in my parents' house, she is considered a folk hero. It's called In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome. Ann, thanks for being here.
Okay, so lovely parents you must have.
The Mob book was their favorite.
That was a good one.
Like 3 books ago, right?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if they're current, but I'm going to send this to them. Okay, so I'm going to start by reading a paragraph from the first chapter of this book. Okay, I'm going to read it from here. Until Trump ends the orderly transition of America from the greatest nation in history into some pathetic, third-rate, also-ran multicultural mess, until the bleeding has stopped, there's nothing Trump can do that won't be forgiven except change his immigration policies. But as Trump shows signs of softening, I know is that going to make you mad, his rhetoric on deportations, at least one person found the timing of your book release so funny. I've watched this 20 times. You have to watch it with me now.
Who knew that it would be Donald Trump to come along and convert the GOP base to supporting amnesty on the same week Ann Coulter's book comes out? Poor Ann.
Okay, so he either feels sorry for you or he's laughing at you. I mean, what is it? Do you reject it?
He wasn't the only one, and it reminds me there is one lower form of humor than puns, and that is taking someone else's joke and then immediately repeating it. The night before, I'd been on Chris Matthews' Hardball and said this could be the shortest book tour ever if he softens.
I saw that, yeah.
Well, see, that's the same
So that's
thing,
what Rush is laughing at?
And everyone else. But I said it as a joke.
So did Rush just miss?
It's not just Rush, it was everybody. But who cares? I think Trump did it to get me some publicity for my book, because whenever I give him the slightest constructive criticism, and I've done it before, I'm not, a Hillary cultist or a Ted Cruz cultist, I can support him and still give him helpful suggestions, which is what I did on the Hannity interview. I mean, simultaneously with the Hannity interview, he was giving magnificent speeches all last week in Tampa and Fredericksburg. No change in position, and I hadn't seen. They just handed me what he had said about this softening, and on closer examination, I mean, he was appearing there with the mothers of children who have been murdered by illegals. That never would have happened with another presidential candidate. And it was
you're talking about the 2 Fox town halls. The one, there were 2 of them last week. One of them was Sean.
Right. And it was Sean who was pressing him, and it was Sean using the Gang of 8 ledger domain about, and they'll pay back taxes and they're so law-abiding. And then so he was just repeating what Sean was saying. But no, I do not think there's going to be any softening, because the one thing, as I say in the book,
he's going to have a deportation force and the 11 million will go?
We have one. It's called ICE.
No, I know, but you think, but he has changed.
I think he's going to enforce the laws, because he said approximately 1 million times. I mean, he really hasn't.
So what
changed.
is Kellyanne Conway talking about? She said
you'll have to check with her.
But you think they're out of sync? You trust Trump's original statements on this?
Look, the rhetoric perhaps could be softened. He started at 11. You can present it in a way that isn't going to frighten people, I suppose. It doesn't frighten me. But I mean, you've seen a lot of that going on basically since the convention. I happen to like his free-form jazz-style speeches where he tells jokes and calls out people and calls his opponents funny names. I think they're funny. But I understand that he needs to be a little more presidential now, and he is being more presidential. The speeches he's giving, and by the way, you should show those more. I notice the media is hiding them because they're excellent speeches.
But let's just be clear about something. You think there's 11 million people? 11
no,
million,
there are definitely more.
More. You think they should all be deported, right?
I don't think we should be giving them amnesty.
Right.
So
say they should be deported or not?
Yeah, but Trump has never said that week 1 we're going to have 40 million gone.
I didn't ask that question. I'm asking for you, for your point of view. You think they should all be deported, right?
Basically, yeah.
So if Trump ends up in some other place where he's talking about a pathway to citizenship or something else.
Pathway to citizenship would definitely be contrary to his whole plan, yes.
You'd be done with him then, right?
No, he'd still be better than any others, but I wouldn't vote enthusiastically, and I doubt he'd win. It's more that I'm worried about him winning the election. And saying you're not going to do what you've been promising to do for a year, it's one thing to soften the rhetoric, as I say. That's fine. but look, his entire platform, as I point out in the book, has been put America's interests first, whether it's trade, whether it's immigration, whether it's foreign wars, it's putting Americans first. So, look,
do you not think there's any security interest for the U.S. in taking these people out of the shadows and not granting them citizenship, but putting them on a pathway toward you couldn't live with any legal status?
It's not that I can't live with it. I don't think it's good for Americans.
You don't think it's good to bring people out of the shadows so that the police know where they are?
I think there are more transgenders in America than there are Americans worried about the comfort and security of people who broke into our country illegally, are living here illegally, are taking jobs illegally. How quickly it moves doesn't really matter. Yeah, of course, get rid of the worst ones first, but every illegal alien, including, and this I describe in the book, the most law-abiding illegal alien with one child in school costs Americans more than $12,000 a year just to educate that child. That's assuming, not even accounting for the astronomically expensive English as a second language classes, the free school lunches, the emergency rooms, the cars. No, this is all to get cheap labor for people who live in this neighborhood, by the way. But the illegal aliens don't live in this neighborhood. They come in to do the, maid work and the nannying, and then they go out and fill up other people's emergency rooms and other people's schools. And suddenly there's no money for the Christmas pageant that year because we're spending so much money on English as a second language. The point is, even the most law-abiding illegal alien is costing Americans a lot of money. We are a generous people. I never thought ICE or the deportation force, whatever you want to call it, would act in an angry and aggressive way. We're kind people. There may be some illegals, but why does the discussion always have to start with the hard case? We have not been enforcing laws on the books for 30, 40 years now. Why do you start with the wild outlier case and rearrange the whole solar system to deal with the one illegal alien? Let's get rid of the 40 million first.
Let me ask you this question, just on the basis of there was a big Pew poll last week that said 2,000 people they asked, relatively big poll. 76% say that they think undocumented immigrants are as hardworking and as honest as most U.S. citizens. 71% say that they fill mostly jobs that U.S. citizens don't want. Only 61% are against the border wall, right? So why is it that you are in favor of so many proposals in your book that, in a general view of immigration, that is so far outside the American mainstream?
Well, I don't think it is, as I have an entire chapter in my last book, Adios America, which Donald Trump read, about how deceptive the immigration polls always are. And that one right there, without even hearing any more about the question, to ask about the illegal immigrants themselves, as I say, Americans are compassionate and kind people, and to be talking about it as if it's the people themselves. How about a question, should we enforce laws on the books about immigration, or should politicians and the plutocrats be able to bring in cheap nannies and gardeners that you end up having to pay for? How about just a poll question, should we have more or less immigration? Because that's overwhelmingly on my side. So these are utterly deceptive polls. Whenever they ask about the path to legalization, they're always loaded up with the kind of thing that Hannity was pushing Trump to say last week about paying back taxes, and they're law-abiding. Well, they're not law-abiding. There are lots of laws that have been broken. Back taxes means we, the taxpayer, pay each illegal alien about $30,000 in earned income tax credit refund. No illegal alien is making enough money to pay any taxes. So they're lying questions in polls. Whenever a poll is asked just simply and honestly, do you want more or less immigration? North Korea is more popular than illegal immigration. It is.
If Donald Trump loses...
It is. That's in my book. The poll actually shows that.
If Donald Trump loses, whose fault will it be?
I don't think he's going to lose.
You think all the polls are so flawed?
No,
I
won't discount all the polls, but I think they'll change. I still think it is. Look, I think it's more likely than not that he'll win. There's a possibility that he will lose.
Because even some of his advisors think that it's getting harder to see.
Thank God he doesn't listen to his advisors.
Well, that's true.
And the general advisors in here do not come off very well in this book. I mean, that's why Trump's got more votes than any other Republican in primary history, because he didn't have those Washington consultants, the pollsters, the think tanks, with all their idiotic talking points.
But if he loses, whose fault will it be?
You're a lovely girl.
It's okay. But if he loses, whose fault will it be?
I don't know. That's a lot of, I'm piling on. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of hypotheticals there. I could phrase it slightly differently, which is what you may be asking about. I don't know what Washington insiders think they're getting out of they're not never Trump crew. They're destroying the Republican Party one way or another. But if he loses, frankly, I don't think anything I do, I don't think anything you guys do is going to make a difference because the country's over.
And I got to ask you this question. Just because there's so many things. We'd spend a lot of time on this book. I have various factual issues with the book. I have tons of issues.
Like my quote of you.
Yes, but that's. I'd rather quote this. I'd rather quote your writing in here about Serge Kovaleski. One of the things when you did a poll, Bloomberg Politics poll, asked people what most troubles them about Trump at various incidents. His mockery of Serge Kovaleski was at the top of the poll. You wrote in the book, it's true that Trump was not mimicking any mannerisms that Serge has. He doesn't jerk around or flail his arms. He's not retarded. He sits calmly, but if you look at his wrists, you'll see they're curved in. That's not the imitation Trump was doing. He was doing a standard retard. So my question is, are you suggesting that he was impersonating not Serge Kovaleski, but what you regard as a standard disabled person? And if so, is that okay? And why this language?
There's a famous line from, what is it, Tropic Thunder, that's a whole little speech on, what's his name, Robert Downey Jr. advising one of the actors, you don't want to go full retard, you want to do half retard or something. Okay, you don't like the word, oh well. But the point remains, and moreover...
Just to be clear, I'm not sure it's me who doesn't like the word. I think it's a vast swath of American society who thinks that's...
I was called a lot of words this weekend, and I didn't mind. So I think we all need to develop a little thicker skin. But the point is, and I'm glad you got back to this, because something I didn't know when I wrote the book, and I'm writing about it in tonight's column, it is absolutely an outrageous, despicable, deliberate lie that the media has told about Donald Trump mocking a disabled person. He would not do that. He said he would not do that. And the proof positive of this is that in the exact same speech, he did the exact same imitation of a general. Right. And the media knew that, and they will not show us that clip. He has done the exact same imitation, flailing his arms, of Ted Cruz. This is how Donald Trump does an imitation of a flustered, cowardly person or frightened person. And moreover, when someone posted those videos on the Washington Post website in a perfectly respectful comment, the Washington Post instantly took it down because they don't want people to see maybe Trump isn't a good sketch actor, but he was not mocking a disabled man. That is a media lie.
Instead, what he was mocking was apparently, in your words, a standard retard.
That isn't standing. That's an acting. Famous acting trope of pretending to be a retard. You may not like my words. That's not the words Trump used. He was flailing his arms. He did it for a general. The general is not disabled. Ted Cruz is not disabled. Right. That is a media lie. Whether you like my words or not, that is, I don't lie. And that is a media lie.
For the record, don't like that word.
Ann Coulter, always brave, never flustered. Again, her book is called In Trump We Trust.